guilty of scare tactics, some might say, and I'm referring to the fact that your leader is going to say later on today that there'll be rat hairs in the paprika and maggots in the orange juice if we do a trade deal with the US when we leave.
I think
really,
if we move away from the standards we've enjoyed with the EU, we move to different standards, and I think the US standards are inferior to the standards we've got.
Rat hairs in the paprika, maggots in the orange juice.
It's about the standards that we operate. We operate very high standards at the moment, and I think there's a big concern that those standards go down. I think the biggest risk, if I may say so...
is that hyperbole?
Well, look, it's illustrating the point, but...
No, is that hyperbole from your leader?
It's
rat hairs in the paprika and maggots in the orange juice.
It's illustrating a point about standards
Have you ever been to the United States on holiday?
I've been to the United States many,
Have you ever had maggots in your orange juice?
I have been to the United States. I have holidayed there. I have worked there. I've travelled through there many, many times.
And have you been worried about rat hairs in your paprika?
There are real worries about food standards
and maggots
in America.
In your orange
but
juice.
let me just, since we come on to America and a trade deal with America, I think the bigger concern for many, many people is that if we go down the road of a trade deal with America, medicine prices are likely to go up because most American firms think that the NHS is keeping prices of medicines too low by the way it purchases them, and they want that to change. That is a real danger for people within the NHS. I haven't really met anybody who says... That's nothing to do with maggots in orange juice.
No,
but I'm just saying there are bigger issues.
And you have to acknowledge that that is hyperbole from what your leader is going to say in a speech later on.
It's making a point about lowering of standards if we do trade deals with America.
OK, but as I said, you've been to the United States and you've never, I'm guessing, had to deal with that sort of thing.
I haven't.
It's all bullshit.
I want to ask you, if I vote Labour in the general election, do I get Brexit or don't I get Brexit?
You get a referendum, and in that referendum you get the choice between the best deal that can be secured, and we would hope to do that in a very short period of time, or remain.
Okay.
And therefore,
what are you going to campaign for in that second referendum?
Well, in a sense, what I campaign for is secondary, because what we're saying is it's for the country now to decide. We're saying less power to politicians. That's where we've been stuck.
Oh, hang on. But I need to know, if I'm voting for you, what do you believe in? Well, do you think we should leave or remain?
The Labour Party says we're going to put this choice before you.
But I'm voting for you as my political representative, for instance, as one of your voters. Do you want to leave or remain?
I've said many times what my personal position is.
You want to remain?
But that's missing the point.
So am I voting to stay
can I just finish this?
In the EU? Sorry, it's just we're running out of time, and I just want to be clear what Labour's policy is. Are we leaving or remaining?
We are going to, within 6 months, have a referendum, and we're going to say, here's the best deal that can be secured, and it's going to go up against Remain, and we're going to let the public decide the answer to that question.
It's such a good deal that you yourself would vote against it?
Well, we're duty-bound to get the best possible deal. Of course we are, because we don't want something...
How can it be a really good deal if you're going to vote against it?
Well, we're duty-bound to get the best deal we can, and I think that's something that secures our economy and is consistent with the Good Friday Agreement.
Why would the EU give you a good deal if they know that you're going to actively campaign against it?
Well,
which is
Piers,
clearly what most of you are going to be doing.
Well, Piers, I have been talking to the EU, to political leaders across the EU 27 countries, for 3 years. And I know very well what the parameters are of any deal that they would do with a Labour government.
Bullshit.
What we want to do is to come into government, scrap Boris Johnson's deal, secure the best Leave deal we can, and then put that deal up against Remain in a referendum within 6 months, and therefore break the impasse and move on. So very simple, secure the best deal we can, put it up against Remain in a referendum, that referendum within 6 months, get an outcome, move on.
But your ideal scenario, I mean, individually, you are a Remainer, are you not? You would rather a stay?
Well, I've expressed my views many times.
Come on, don't bullshit me.
Well, do we want to speak to...
Because we know if we vote Brexit, we know what they're doing. If we vote Tory, we know that we're going to be leaving. If we vote Lib Dem, we know we want to revoke Article 50. What are we voting for if we vote for Labour?
Let's just test that. If you vote for the Conservative Party, you get a hard Brexit, which I think will damage our economy. I think it will... It will also, I think, lead to the breakup of the Union, etc.
Brexit does what it says on the tin.
So that's one side. The other side, you've got Revoke. Now, I know a lot of people who voted Remain and are passionate about Remain who don't think Revoke is the right thing to do because they think if you're going to Remain, you've got to ask the public and you've got to win the argument. What the Labour Party is sitting in the middle, really, and saying, actually, let's ask the public whether they want to leave with the best deal that can be secured, or they want to remain. And let me just, because you challenge...
You're going to get splinters in your bottom sitting on that fence so much.
You challenged me on this. I genuinely do not think any party that aspires to govern should say, we will only govern for 52%, or we will only govern for 48%. Of course, we have to try to speak to those that voted to leave and those that voted to remain. If you want to govern for the whole nation, that is the right thing to do. But in a sense, we're taking the politicians out of this, and we're saying it's for the public. Within 6 months, you'll have a referendum. It's a straight fight between the best deal that can be secured and remain. And then we've got an outcome.
Bullshit. Why, given that in the last election, which came after the referendum, the Labour Party manifesto pledged to honour the result of that referendum, why should anybody vote in another referendum that you guys would have if you got into power, given that you ignored the result of the first one? You keep talking about giving the people their say. If you ignore the result of the first one, why should anybody vote in another one?
It's not about ignoring the result, but we can't ignore the fact that for 3.5 years we've been completely stuck. Most people around the country, when you mention Brexit, say, for heaven's sake, let's resolve it one way or another. We've been stuck for 3.5 years. We've had deals put up by the government that are bad deals that haven't gone through. We've got to face that fact, and we've got to find a way out of this impasse. The way out of it is to say, let the people decide between a deal, we now know what a deal would look like, and remain, because we're stuck and we need to get past this. People are yearning to get on to the other discussions, including the one we were just had.
You could get screwed here, where the Liberal Democrats have decided we are the non-Brexit party. We're going to stop it if you vote for us. You have Boris Johnson saying we're going to deliver Brexit, right? And you have the Labour Party in the middle going, we want to try and be everything to everybody. It's not a very strong electoral position, is it? It lacks any clarity. You know, you run the risk of being caught between these two very firm positions, and Labour looking like it's just blowing in the wind.
Well, look, Piers, it doesn't lack clarity. You may like it or dislike it, but it's not unclear to say we'll have a referendum and you'll have the choice between the best deal we can secure and remain. That's not unclear. You may say I don't like it, but you can't pretend it's unclear.
Okay.
Now, just let me finish the answer, because on the one hand, you've got a hard Brexit from a right-wing Tory government. On the other hand, you've got revoke from the Lib Dems. I think both positions, cutting out the public from this, are wrong in principle. We're saying let the public decide. And of course we want to appeal to the 52% and the 48%. I've always rejected this idea that a political party that wants to govern should aspire only to represent half of the country. That is the wrong thing in principle.
Except in the second referendum, only one half of the country's going to be a winner.
Well, and the problem that I think the Conservative Party got itself into in the last 3.5 years was to completely ignore the 48% who didn't vote for the particular result and not find that. I think if Theresa May had tried to find a consensus, genuinely tried to find a consensus, we probably would be through with all of this.
Bullshit!